Hey, everybody, and welcome to Force 5, a Star Wars action figure show. And in this show, I have guests come on to talk about their five favorite Star Wars action figures. I knew the F's were gonna screw me up. I just knew it. Their five favorite Star Wars action figures in a countdown from 5 to 1, and a little bit of information about why they're Star Wars collectors and what about those figures is so important to them. And my first guest in this inaugural show is my good pal Joseph Scrimshaw, who is just an incredible writer, producer, just gadfly man about town, creative Renaissance man. There's so many ways I can describe you. How would you describe yourself?
There's so many ways you could describe me. Most of them good.
All of them positive.
Oh, thank you. That is an honor. That is an honor. I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, nouns are always a struggle when you like to do lots of things. So I'd say a writer, comedian at this point.
And also sort of you have your own corner of the Star Wars podcast show personality universe as well.
Yes, the third noun I should say is writer, comedian, podcaster. Yes, I do a podcast called Force Center with Ken Knapsack and Jennifer Landa, and that is a ton of fun. We go deep in kind of the big ideas of Star Wars, but also really value that it's also a pulp adventure serial. So we also spend a lot of time on what makes it fun and what makes it deep. I love it because it's profound and absurd.
You are one of the most profoundly upbeat Star Wars fans that I have ever met. It is very difficult to be critical. And the thing is that your superpower, your force power when it comes to this is that you have a way of making people reassess their negative view on a thing, or at least have to explain and question why they hold that negative view of a thing.
Yeah. I think that's just really important. I think it's getting harder and harder in the world we live in, where like I always just think like opinions are opinions. Everybody's opinion is right. If you like that part of Star Wars, great, you're right for your opinion. If you disliked it, great, you're right for your opinion. And then there's kind of this other side where like, hey, but if we want to have a real critical discussion, let's like make an argument and support it with evidence from the text. Like to me, those are like the two poles of talking about stories. And most of our conversation is this weird mush in between that causes people to, butt heads when they don't need to. Because like there are parts of Star Wars that are not my favorite. And I always love talking to people about it, even if they don't like something, as long as they'll say, I don't like it. And then I can go, why? And then they tell me, and then we have a conversation. The only thing that ever bumps me out is when people are just like, your opinion's wrong. It's bad. Period.
No, I think what is wonderful is that you foster discussion and communication.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. And it's usually 9 times out of 10, a ton of fun. I had a great conversation with my stylist who loved Mandalorian and was like, I got some questions about that Boba Fett, though. And so while she's cutting my hair, I'm like, cool. What did you like? What you didn't like? It was a real fun conversation.
About the show Boba Fett, just about Boba Fett in general. I was like, is it sweaty under that helmet?
I think it was mostly things like that. Now, knee rockets. Is that badass or is that weird? I say both.
Yeah. Is that a yoga pose?
I love that yoga pose so much. I froze the screen on the second viewing with my wife Sarah, who is a dancer and has done a lot of yoga, and said, what is that yoga pose? What is it closest to?
And was there an answer?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a variation of like a tree pose
it
kind of thing.
Doesn't look pleasant to hold. Like no. It's not good for aiming. It's not a good aiming pose.
It looks like it took a lot of work and training. So good job on you, Boba Fett. Good job on Boba Fett's core strength.
But he only has the knee rockets on one side, right?
I believe he has them on both. I'd have to look at an action figure more closely. But yeah, I think he's used them on the right both times.
Okay, so that's his strong knee rocket side.
Strong knee, like he's getting up there. He's in his 30s.
You think he ever takes the unused rockets from the left and puts them on the empty slots in the right after he fires them? Like, I can't do the left.
I feel like that is one of the great parts of both Boba Fett and the Mandalorian that are like, you know what? It's fantasy. Let it go. The rocket maintenance. That's like one of the great mysteries, right? Of like, do you have like rocket plants? Do you regrow some of your rockets? Where do they come from?
Or just what's the regular maintenance schedule? Is he just
holed
up in the ship, just periodically going, I gotta check these rockets? I mean, it's been a while since I fired the knee ones.
Well, clearly from the Mandalorian, there's that point where he clearly has in his starship some paint to freshen up his armor. So I think
Is there
Boba
like an
Fett's big on
Amazon
maintenance.
subscription where it just keeps delivering rockets to him?
Yeah, and I think that he gets rockets, and I think he gets that exact color of green, for his
He has a PO box, right?
Exactly. I gotta go to my PO box.
Oh, I'm out of rockets again. Ah,
Oh,
jeez.
jeez.
So tell me a little bit about your sort of collecting journey, because we're
Yeah.
of the same age, so we're sort
Mhm.
of vintage age.
Oh yeah, yeah. It just got in deep vintage, all the classic things. Loved Star Wars when I was very young, but it was inaccessible because it was only on a screen. Wasn't even in television yet. Parents couldn't even afford a VCR, so it lived in books, but mostly action figures and just that real. It jumps off the screen and you get to take it home with you. So the love got in deep and early.
Do you recall what the first one was that you got?
No. I
Or
remember
was it
that
one of
we
those
had.
Christmas bonanzas where
Yeah. I don't remember the first ones. I remember losing some, and I think like some neighbor kids breaking them or some neighbor kids stealing them. I remember having some and then losing some, which I'm sure I need to go over with a therapist eventually because I'm sure it explains a lot.
Yeah.
It's like some of the earliest memories are just coveting Bespin Luke and thinking that I have no idea why as a kid aesthetically I thought like that beige jumpsuit is the coolest bleeping thing I've ever seen.
you know what?
I need it.
I imagine you really loving utility.
No idea what it was, but yeah, so huge collector. Pined for the idea that they would ever come back. So in 96, 97, when the Power of the Force line, technically Power of the Force 2, because anyway, so when that relaunch came out to build up to the special edition and the prequels, and it was the ridiculous like Star Wars, but He-Man with the barrel chest, where even Vader's got the pecs, I was so thrilled by that line, and that line fulfilled the fantasy of they're going to remake figures with more accurate lightsabers and weapons, but they're going to make the characters that have never been made before. So that was like a huge era of collecting for me. It kind of up through Attack the Clones. Then I had some different life focuses and some financial issues, so I dropped off a lot. And then big resurgence for me with kind of the return of Star Wars with the Force Awakens. So that's kind of I've had the original, the Power of the Force, and then we're back to this new height since Force Awakens.
But 90s Power of the Force would have been when you were actively going out and buying for yourself and trolling those Kmarts and
Oh
KBs.
yeah, and Targets a lot in the Midwest, and we still had Toys R Us. Yeah, I have so many memories from that. I remember going to the Toys R Us the day that the I think it was the Leia in Jabba bikini came out, and that was like unbelievable to me because it was like absurd, like that action figure finally existed, and kind of weird that they made it, and like I didn't have enough cash, so I had to go to the ATM, and like I hid her somewhere in the store. I can't remember where, like behind diapers, and came back for her.
Oh, you
like,
went really extreme with the hiding. You weren't just hiding it behind like a Nerf football. You were like, I'm taking it out of this section.
Yeah, into an entirely different section. Yeah, I will edit myself because I have a million stories like that. But it occupied. It wasn't just the figures; it was the pursuit and the fun of imagining what's going to come out next. Got me through some boring jobs, and other friends were collecting, so it was a compare and contrast, and it was a really joyful time for collecting.
And it also turned into, unlike the the famous no figures available when Star Wars actually came out, and you had to get them, on the promise of them and coming out the following year. The action figures were in the modern era the precursor and build up to the new film coming out. You'd suddenly see these characters you had no idea about.
Yeah,
just dumped in a swimming pool full of figures for people to make a mad dash for in those weird Phantom Menace times.
Yeah, and with the special edition, coming out, and you had a couple new figures. I remember the Han packed with weird CGI Jabba with the big face that came out like immediately. It was a really exciting time.
And yet doesn't have a peg so you can stand it on his tail.
Nope, he just has to rely.
The only display option that's proper for that set.
Yeah, that Java with just a little tiny peg to support him
and
would
those
be very
little
funny.
tiny eyes so far set back in the head. It is a very weird figure. So let's get to your first selection, your number 5 on your list of favorite Star Wars figure. This is from, and just let people know, this is from any era. This can be vintage, this can be modern. any scale that you would like to do. So what is your number 5?
Yeah, well, so just to give a little bit of context very quickly, this was extremely fun and challenging assignment because a ton of my figures are still in a storage place in Minneapolis, where I used to live. I'm in Los Angeles now, so I don't have access to about half of them. This was also that great thing where it's like, hey, pick your favorite. Fine. And then I realized, oh, he's asking me to pick my favorite child, but I have hundreds of children in lots of different ways to contextualize it. I almost did 5 Kenobi figures because I like the weird figures and I like Kenobi figures. I got a lot of weird Kenobi figures, but I wanted to go with variety. So with that in mind, I will start with my number 5. It is a 2-pack from the Rebels era, and it is Yoda and Darth Sidious. I'm going to see if I can get a little closer and have people see Sheev's face.
Wow.
Because there's a lot to love, but it's really Sheev's face. Always a sucker. Go ahead.
This is Revenge of the Sith. This was released during the Rebels figures line, but this is
so this
legacy
was
sort of releases.
Yeah, this was 214, and the purchase of this action figure was the sound of the dam breaking. I had not purchased an action figure in a long time. Force Awakens was coming out. I had just got a writing gig, and I was like to my wife, like, it's okay if I just get this one. I just got this writing gig. And she's like, of course. And my wife is very supportive, so I don't want to be anybody to misinterpret that story. She loves the action figures too, but it unleashed the madness that is in our home now. And I had to have it because I love 2-packs. I love Yoda. Many of my favorite Yoda figures are Yoda. He's a good, solid Yoda with that lightsaber sticking way up. I love Sheev, this particular one with his pasty white hands, like all ready to go. And then that face. This is one of the things I love in action figures, Ken, when they are from kind of a specific moment. Like you can almost find like the frame of film this action figure is from. And I feel like this Sheev is he's that moment where he's knocked Yoda to the ground and he's kind of celebrating that he finally just to straight up fight
so
Yoda.
Excited.
It's like,
he's so
been
excited.
Looking forward to this forever, my little green friend. It's like that moment in action figure form.
And he had that line, just waiting to use that line.
Yes. Do
you think he was so afterwards going, I should have said something a little bit more than little good friend? Jeez, I had my moment.
It's so condescending.
And you don't
my little
get
green
like
friend.
Angry, determined Yoda. Like usually you get Zen Yoda.
Yeah.
Or stoic Yoda, but that Yoda is like, oh, I'm in it.
Yeah, this is piss me off you have Yoda. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And on the back is a great picture of Sidious just coming for Yoda. Look at that. Look at that. That's total I'm gonna take your lunch money energy.
I mean, that is just the fact that you have an action pack with Sidious and Yoda.
Yep.
Two of the oldest characters in the prequels.
Yep. But now in such a different context from the way we grew up with them.
That is I'm surprised. So you also, we should also say, because I love your not unboxing videos, which everyone should check out on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, at Joseph Scrimshaw, on all those things. They are wonderful. For me, who is definitely an unboxer and takeout, I marvel at how much wonderful content you can produce in analyzing, because action figure presentation in situ like that, like they are staged in a way that is supposed to appeal to you on the peg. And go, that I want that is a set or a figure that I want.
Yeah.
And you even talking about that being the thing that drew you back in, and seeing that on the shelf and wanting to, you almost seem like you want to preserve that moment. What is the thing that appealed to me?
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, it's like action figures can exist in 2 states. They're meant to be taken out of the package and posed and be your desk friends. And I think that's great. And I do that sometimes. But then there's this part of me also that it's just like, but this is like the package isn't just something disposable. It's not like a Ziploc, right? There's the art on it. And the art is always frozen in time, right? That this says Star Wars Rebels, watch the animated series. It's frozen in a moment of time.
Or mail away figures that have long been claimed and sent out and empty from warehouses.
And I don't have like little cardboard white boxes and like I never took Anakin Skywalker out of that. Like it's about, that's fascinating to me. But to me, it is about like, this is the present. this is the presentation. When you're looking at them is pieces of art as well as toys. To me, the package is a part of the art.
But part of you must want to take that out and put tiny little sunglasses on that Palpatine, right?
Yeah, here's what I do. If there's something I really want to take out of the package and it's reasonable for price, I get two, and I leave one in the package and I take one out.
Well, we'll see if any of those show up on your list. So do you want to move on to your number 4?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see where should we go for number 4? I think we should go here. We'll go newer figure, but classic character. This is, of course, Hoth Leia. But this is Hoth Leia in the toy design that they had for both The Last Jedi and Solo, where they made this interesting decision, since those movies came out together so close, to design a line for The Last Jedi that looked basically exactly like this, except for the text in the little design on the back was red, but it didn't say The Last Jedi, but it was The Last Jedi line. And then that line just switched colors in a couple other little things, but for the most part stayed very, very similar and ran into Solo and made some did some other characters outside of the actual film who were related. It was very fun that this Leia was on pegs at the same time as Kira. So it looked like, hey kids, would you like to play with the lady loves of Han Solo? Well,
isn't that the sticker that's on the back, the Lady Loves of Han Solo series?
Yes, not to diminish these characters in their own right in any way, because that's why I picked up this Leia. I loved this line that started with The Last Jedi and was Solo, because it's so stripped down. A lot of the figures, especially with Force Awakens, had a little bit more modern marketing where they came with just like a bunch of bonzo crap that is not from the movies because they thought that's what kids wanted. And this is just stripped down. It's just the character in the accessory they should absolutely come with. This is Leia's DH-17, rebel rifle that she would have had access to on Hoth. It's
are you saying that Rose didn't fire large plastic rings from a launcher? Is that something that didn't happen?
Not that I'm aware of, but perhaps yet another deleted scene to be discovered. I picked this because I love Leia. I deeply remember getting my original Kenner Hoth Leia. I love Hoth Leia's look because it's still regal and princess-like and royalty, but it's also a little bit more just like down to business. She's like the leader on Hoth, so I've always really gravitated toward this look, and this is just such a perfect capturing.
I'm pulling something from my desk.
Oh yeah. Oh, that is amazing.
Isn't that just
that likeness is so good as to be almost frightening.
It is very disturbing to have these on my desk going, oh, that's a level of creepy realism that,
I mean, that's a question with action figures when they get so realistic that they're not like an impression of the thing, but the actual thing.
Yeah,
it's a weird balance.
Like even in that scale of action figure, now that they've gone to like the digital painting, and you can have realistic eyes on a tiny little 3 3/4 action figure.
Yeah. And like for the package, like the art of Leia is so great. So even if I took her out of the package, I would preserve this art because, and this is why I do these unboxing videos, because I love the package. She really looks like, so make up your mind. Are you going to take me out of the package or not?
Yeah.
What's the deal? Make up your mind.
Or you don't think I'm in Solo, do you?
I'm not in Solo, right? Yeah.
I am judging you right now.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe this is the look that she had when Han finally told her the full backstory of Kira, and she was so. Okay, that
was a flashback that was cut from the Lord and Miller version. Was
explain some of your scars, Han. I get it. All right, okay, all right. Took me a little while to tell me, but okay.
I like to think there were a lot of just discussions on Hoth in the downtime before they had to evacuate.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's probably a look that he got a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Like, really, Han? Yeah.
And that's a period of the action figures we were mentioning where they went to a strip down, where in the 2000s they got super articulated.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were ridiculously articulated figures.
Yeah. Like,
and then they went
more movement than my body can do by like a lot.
Yeah,
more points of articulation than me.
Do humans kick their own ass on the reg? Is that a thing that happens?
I do not have. My legs cannot do the things that some of those action figures can do. Put it that way.
But these went back to more of the classic Kenner, just There's no joints. It's just
Mhm.
2 legs, 2 arms, and a turning head, and that's all you got.
Yeah. And because I don't take them out of the package as much and pose them as much, it doesn't bother me, but I know it was a real defining choice for adult collectors who want that articulation. And I think the idea was do the 5 points of articulation and make them more affordable. You can make more characters. You can really have they're for families and collectors and collect them all. And I don't think it ultimately worked, unfortunately, since one of the reasons I love this is, after this, the line went to the 3 3/4 is just the vintage. And these kind of figures aren't on the shelves anymore.
Yeah, the vintage very much playing into the nostalgia market of these look like the Kenner figures. These are the packaging from the Kenner figures.
But it's got the deep articulation, so it is absolutely for, what most adult collectors want. Yeah.
Right. If you want to hold that blaster with 2 hands, not just one straight sticky outie.
I'm all fine with the straight sticky outie. This is my straight sticky outie, Leia, and I'm okay with that.
So your number 3.
Yeah, my number 3. Okay, where do I want to go with this? Yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to another 2-pack from Rogue One. This is the Shore Trooper and Beastan. See, I can't even say it without laughing and enjoying myself. I picked this one because I really like both of these characters, and they celebrate something that I love in Star Wars collecting, going back to even a kid. Like, even as a kid, I knew, like, I love Han Solo. I love having this action figure. That's not how human heads go. Like, even as a kid, when I loved the figures, I knew the humans weren't quite right. But the aliens and the troopers were even cooler because somehow they looked better because they didn't have to, match normal human.
Yeah. Or an actor's likeness.
Or an actor's likeness. Yeah, it's so much easier. So that's such a huge part of Star Wars, of collecting, is appreciating the weirdo monsters, fun aliens, and also just the trooper collection. It's one of the like beautiful, absurd things about Star Wars where like, yeah, no, we need a trooper for every environment. We need a shore trooper. And this is a water shore trooper. This isn't a lava shore trooper. I'm sure they have a different kind of, trooper for every kind of shore. I love
That's a shallow shore trooper.
This is a shallow.
I'm sure there are hip waders on the deep shore trooper.
Yeah, because the armor doesn't even go up to the thighs. Like, come on, they're shore troopers. Don't you want that? That's just cloth on the shore trooper's thighs. Like, you're
bogged down.
Yeah, this is soggy bottom trooper right here.
Oh, now I'm imagining they're like a singing group. The soggy bottom shore troopers.
The soggy bottom trooper. Yeah, so I love the shore troopers. They're one of those examples of Star Wars where like you can make jokes and have fun with it, but they also just, to me, look cool as absolute hell. I love how their armor is just like a little faded, a little off-white. And there's just something about it where it doesn't quite cover their whole body. They're kind of lean and scary in a different way. Love them. And then Beastan, who only has a couple of shots in Rogue One, but one of them is great. That just absolutely screaming his head off while he shoots the knee out of a walker.
He's having so much fun.
He's having so much fun, and I love Rogue One. I think it's great. I love the choice to make it a little bit more grounded, but it means some of the kind of the weirder fantasy fun elements of Star Wars aren't as present. And Beastan is one of those. And ever since he popped up in, I think, like a behind the scenes sizzle reel, even before trailer, I was like, that's my guy. That's my weirdo
for Andor.
Yeah. Oh, come on, Beastan, show up in Andor. I would love that. So I loved him on the Force Center podcast. For a while, we did a show called Databank Brawl where we'd pick 2 random characters and then we would improvise an imaginary fight between them. And because I love these characters, we did Beastan and Shore Trooper. And then this 2-pack came out and like, you made an action figure of my podcast. I need this. So I love
who
him.
Won?
I believe that Beastan won in Doug. He burrowed into the sands of Scarif to fight another day while the Shore Trooper was wiped away by the wave of destruction. Killed by hubris. Yeah.
As always.
Yeah.
And also that is that era that has those weird accessories that are just
Yes, yes, and this one isn't even as bad. I'll try to get a little closer with Beaston. But yeah, I love they almost all come with cannons that are not canon. They are not in the films.
Yeah, there are cannons that they
Yeah,
could present.
yeah, and for me, this is a little bit of an age thing and a bias thing too, and I'll totally own it's my age. Like I grew up with Star Wars and with the He-Man, and they came with the weapons that they came with. And then like the Batman era, when those films were coming out, and they kind of discovered like, oh, kids just want different versions of Batman with weird crap he doesn't have in the movies, and it annoyed me, and it's annoyed me ever since. I don't like weird crap that's not from the property, from the story.
You don't like a 4-inch wide grappling hook
Even a grappling hook is fine, but like
with a massive backpack that's as large as the figure itself?
bright neon scuba Batman, I was like, get out of here with that.
Every Batman needs a water cannon. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are some in this era that are even worse. Like some of the Force Awakens, like that's a great Kylo Ren action figure, and then it looks like he comes with a mouse trap or something. Like who knows? Yeah.
See, as an unboxer, for me, those are now just filling a bag full of these random, and some of them were ones you're supposed to like assemble with other figures in the line for a larger contraption.
Right, and even those at least I get. It makes some of the Marvel figures, which I cannot allow myself to collect, like some of the bigger ones where it's like a great figure of J. Jonah Jameson, and then it just comes with a giant arm. Like that's something he has in his home. It makes them really funny in the package. But I don't mind that, to build another character. That's kind of fun, collect them all vibe to me.
Yeah, but if you're missing one figure out of that line, like I have a Super Scroll that's missing an arm, but in my headcanon, that's the invisible girl or the invisible woman. That's that arm. So it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I can actually, it's right here. You can see this is my missing a part Build-A-Figure of the Super Scroll.
In the joy, the smile.
So it works. Yeah, look, he knows.
It
He knows
really
he got
does.
away with it.
Yeah, and at least he got the leg so he can stand, right?
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah.
That's what I knew I'd be fine with never having found that figure.
It at least matches Beaston. Like if Beaston had access to this cannon, I think Beaston would use it gleefully.
I also love the names they give them. So that's just the dual projectile cannon. Is that what it is? Or launcher?
Yeah, dual projectile launcher. And this is this fun era where they were like, yeah, we're not printing this with different cards for different languages. So it is also, I won't attempt to pronounce it, but like lens de projecteur,
Yeah, but we don't see that here anymore in 2-packs, and certainly not the weird non-canon cannons.
No, I'm hopeful that it'll come back. We'll see how the market goes.
So your number 2.
Yes. My number 2, I'm going to blow your mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Out of the package. Yeah.
That's not possible.
Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. Yeah, he's one of my absolute favorites because I waited years for him. That was the fun of that Power of the Force line of like, okay, is there any variation of costume or moment or emotion they haven't made? They put out in Power of the Force line a Luke Skywalker on the skiff, and he didn't have his glove on his hand yet, but he had his burn from being shot. And I collected every Luke. They have a Luke. I've never picked him up, but they have a Luke who's upside down on Dagobah, and the hair is molded, hanging upside down, like he's doing a keg stand. And then, that made me think, will there ever be another Luke, a new costume? And the day that just randomly, we're all on Twitter that day, and hey, Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney, and I don't think they'd even confirmed it yet, but the rumors were, and they're making another movie with the originals. The first thing I thought about, the first thing I cared about was this action figure. Was if there's going to be a new movie and Mark Hamill is going to be in it, someday I will turn the corner of a toy shelf and there will be a new Luke Skywalker. And I have wanted that for years and years and years. And then The Force Awakens comes out. He's only in it in the end, which I think was a great creative decision that worked really well, in my opinion. But they didn't make the action figure. And I was like, why do you hate money? Why have you not made that action figure? And then that Last Jedi line came out, and I loved the line. And it had been out for I think a week. I'd been busy the day it actually launched, and I couldn't get to the store, and then everything was gone. And my wife and I were running some errands, and I was just like, it's probably not going to happen at this Target, but let's turn the corner. And it really was like I was a kid again. That discovery of not ordering them online, or eBay or whatever, but turning the corner, and the one that you covet is there. And that was what happened with this Luke. And I bought him, and then I waited until I found another one that I could keep in the package, and I opened the one that I found that day, the one that I'd been dreaming of.
And now, where do you keep that? Do you keep that in a special place?
This Luke is right by my computer. He is right by my coffee in the morning, and I look at him every day. And it's a cool figure. It's got the great the plastic vinyl cloak, which might not be for everybody, but I like that it's not puffy, it's formed. And then the details probably can't even pick up, but his hand, his exposed metal hand is really cool. Look at that little grumpy face.
I love mine has a super grumpy face. Mine is disinterested in what you have to say.
This one's molds change the mood, and the paint job and the head tilt change the mood a ton. And I got one that was exactly all right, which is like, all right, I'll figure it out. There's like a determination. There's a kid, you don't know how hard this is going to be, but we'll figure it out. It's amazing for me also to have gone on this journey with Luke, where I got to look up to him when I was a kid, and now here's this version of him that is gone through some ups and downs like we all have, and is trying to figure it out. And I love that spirit every morning. He's my desk buddy.
Yeah, he's grumpy, tough love Luke.
Yep, he's grumpy, but we'll figure it out. And that's where he's headed in the whole Last Jedi story of figuring out a way to keep fighting that works for him. And that's like a real nice spirit to have at your desk every morning of like, oh boy, here we go again. But you know what? I will find a way to do this and do what I need to do and be who I need to be for other people. But I'll find a way to do it that is true to myself. There's
nothing like the qualified support of older Luke Skywalker.
Well, it really is. I'm afraid I'm gonna make a difference. I'm afraid I'm gonna hurt people if I ignite this blade. But I know people need me to ignite this blade and to be a symbol of hope and to defend people and to save people. And that great, I can do what I need to do in a way that is still true to me.
But I also had a really sweet retirement thing going here.
he had a
was
life
very
like
comfortable there,
yeah.
just relaxed. He did his fishing, he did his milking,
in with some bouts of existential dread, where he's trying to burn that library down but can't bring himself to do it, which I think is one of the important parts of Last Jedi that people forget. He can't bring himself to do it
for him because he's there for a couple of years. It's never really specified how many years. It's either long but also short. How many years he's actually been there, but he's cut off from the Force, right? Isn't that the whole thing? Is he's cut himself off?
Yeah. So I don't think he's not crossing his legs and meditating deep into the Force. Like maybe he talks to the caretakers every once in a while. Maybe he's like,
do you think he's like, oh, he's back again? He just hangs around and talks.
I get the vibe that they are happy, and this is probably in books and novelizations of that too. That they want to serve. Like they're there to keep this place up for any Jedi who come to visit. I'm like, great, we got a guest. This is our purpose. Like
Beauty and the Beast. Do they do a big number for him when he shows up?
Well, they in that cutscene of Last Jedi, they do have the big party that they go to.
And do you think he had to keep turning down calls from the Force? Like, do you think Obi-Wan and Yoda kept trying to get through to him and got to his busy signal?
Yeah. I mean, actually, the novelization I really like. If anybody likes Last Jedi and wants to go, see a kind of a different view of it, the novelization is really great. And it gets into that of how much it isn't. It looks relaxing, but it isn't, because deep down he knows that just stepping out of the fight isn't the answer, and the Force is calling to him and sending him dreams of the opening of that book of the Last Jedi novelization is kind of the Force sending him a dream of, what if you never left? What if you listened to Uncle Owen and just never got involved? And the Force kind of reminding him you helped a lot of people. The galaxy'd be in real rough shape if you just didn't get involved.
Yeah, so maybe you need to do that again.
Yeah, and that's what this action figure lectures me about every day.
But I still imagine just Yoda, you've reached Luke. I'm not connected to the Force. I'm sorry. Please leave a message. Maybe I'll get back to you. Bye.
Yeah, I think he's got like one of those really good voice answering that sounds totally sincere, like you really picked up. Like, hello, it's Luke, and then like Obi-Wan's like, oh,
Hold
I
on,
thought it
just
was really you.
meditating. Give me a minute. Hold on.
Is this a machine? This is a machine.
Fooled you. Leave a message.
Yeah. So that's my number 2, Jedi Master Luke Skywalker.
So you're number 1. This is the big buildup. So, and I've seen you've been making judgment choices as we've been going along. So you had 5 chosen, but you've been choosing what order to present them in. So I'm really curious as to what one you intentionally held back for number 1.
Yeah, this is my number 1 for sure. I deeply love it. It is an action figure of both Obi-Wan Kenobi and technically Luke Skywalker.
Wow. From a golden age of accessories in the Star Wars figures.
Yep, when you came with babies. Yep. Absolutely. No lightsaber, just a baby. Yeah, so a couple things about this. It is the separation of the twins set, and you can also get one that I'm going to track down that comes with Bail and baby Leia. There's so Kenobi is really like one of my very favorite characters. We're in this great Kenobi Renaissance moment, but I was always fascinated by him as a kid as a kind of mentor character. But then when the prequels came out, it was just the right age for me. When I saw Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan was bursting to take his first steps into the world, like, and so was I. And then as I was getting older, he was maturing with me. I just love him. He's such a great mix of wisdom and snark.
Yeah. No, I was waiting for you to mention
and kindness. No, the sarcasm is a big part of it. He's like, he's flawed, right? Like his heart is absolutely in the right place. He clings to Jedi traditions, but he's also really inquisitive and questions things and wants to understand things. And he's developed, so well in the Clone Wars animated series as well. So I love Kenobi. That's why, I super collect these figures. This mold of Kenobi is one of the only figures I bought from Revenge of the Sith, because I thought it was just like, it just knocked it out of the park for what his super cool look in Revenge of the Sith. So I have an attachment to that. And then it's back to the absurdity, right? Like it's back to that idea of action figures. They make one for every moment. And like the fun of this like cool Kenobi action figure. And then the weirdness that I have, from baby to grumpy old man. I have the entire journey of this fictional character in plastic. It's so fun and weird and amazing. And then I'm trying to keep it out of my ring light. And then even just like, I don't know if you can quite see his hands. The fact that they didn't even like mold them into like any sort of proper support baby Luke's head position.
No.
He's just holding baby Luke with the grabby hands. It's that mix of like, yeah, this moment's cool. It's about hope. I could go on and on about the meaning of this moment to me, but it's also just like the fun and the absurdity of like
from a distance, it looks like it's like I made bread.
It really is like, well, I've we have a party, so I ordered an extra long Subway sandwich. Yeah.
I'll do the cutting.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get it close enough to make out little baby Luke's face, but pretty peaceful there. Aww.
I mean, I mentioned this before on social media after picking up some figures recently, is that era in the early to mid 2000s were really a golden age of we'll do anything.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put out any scene, we'll put out any character, we'll put out anything you might think is weird or why'd they do that, they were going to do it. Yeah. Like I can't see that now because of the disappearance of big box toy stores like Toys R Us being able to order these things to sort of facilitate these things happening. Instead, you get a lot of what are going to be the sure shot characters. Mm-hmm. What are the easy repaints? We'll give you variants that are exclusives, but they're ones that we've kit bashed and we're going to, make this on the cheap because that's how we have to because of the economics of the toy business today.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't understand everything about the toy business. And I think like right now, I'm sure there's like some supply issues in that too. But also there's just like, I feel like there would be hope for getting back to lines with more variety if they could hook kids again, and I think it was a confluence of things that didn't, hook kids. I love Last Jedi. I love that Luke Skywalker action figure with all my heart, but I understand why 6-year-olds aren't like, can I get Luke Skywalker with a existential dread action? Like, I get it. I get it.
Can I have the one with Luke with the face that Grandpa gives me when we visit?
Yeah, like I think they rebounded from not having enough Rey on the shelves and got some Rey out there, and I'm sure that Rey and some of the newest heroes really connected with kids and made a difference, and all that. But then like the Solo line, as much as I love that, they made it hard to get like Solo and Lando. Like Lando only came in a 2-pack. Solo came with the wrist comm reading device, and now what we're seeing with like Mando and Boba Fett and Kenobi not being able to have that impulse purchase of like, I'm watching it, everybody's talking about it, I want to go to the store and buy one.
Yeah,
they're coming out way after, and I think that that to me is the biggest bummer of like, I want this to be the summer of Kenobi, and I want to be able to walk into a store and buy Kenobi and the new Inquisitor Reva, and
and you've, I'm sure, had that moment when you've walked into stores now, at Owing, and it was like this somewhat even pre-pandemic, where you just go into the aisle and the aisle's empty. There's nothing there.
Yeah, there's clearly demand. Like Target's the main place I check, and there's clearly demand because they're almost always all gone. Like, so it's clearly like the ones you put out have been purchased and you're not restocking.
So the joy I've found is in trying to backfill figures I never got.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, I mean, Phantom Menace figures you can get for $2 on card now. They're just all over. So that for me is exciting because I can actually find them and get them in a reasonable fashion. And there's still there's a weird enough thing with those the Comtech chips. Like, what were the dialogue choices they picked? What were the ones they thought would be the key lines to share?
Yeah,
That's
and
a joy for me.
Some of them are not in the film. Some of them are horrific spoilers for the film. I remember the day the Phantom Menace figures came out and reading the back of the cards and like just suddenly like being struck in the middle of an aisle. I think this was at a Kmart going like, wait, I know the whole film from reading the back of the cards. And I didn't know all of it, but I knew a lot of it.
So that for me has been where I've found that joy of just running into things.
Yeah.
Again.
I think that, I've really embraced the online, and it's fun to, track down some of the weird ones and see like which ones are randomly super expensive, which are very easy to find, all that kind of stuff. I've embraced that a ton.
And your wonderful unboxing, or not unboxing videos have been great because you have also spotlighted some very bizarre ones as far as the choices made that have led me to look for more of those very bizarre sort of sets and scenes that they do.
Yeah. And you've picked up some ones where I'm like, all right, I gotta get that one.
Now you've got me some of the ones that I picked up. I've gone, do I want to open these? Because now Joseph's way of thinking has infected me. Because, and then also when you look at it and there's like a KB Toy Stores sticker on the blister, and you're like, that's a thing that now this is a relic of a past age
of that moment of time. Yeah, no, I think people should embrace what makes the most sense to them. And I always just kind of want to communicate that it might be some anxiety about permanence, taking them out of the package, but it is about celebrating the art. And they're moving away from the plastic packaging in some of them. Like I have that deluxe Boba Fett 3 3/4 on order, who's going to show up allegedly in July, and he's going to come in a package that's all art with no plastic. And I'm probably just going to be able to cut a piece of tape, and I'll be able to take him out without like doing violence to the packaging.
Right.
And I think I'll take a lot more out when they're packaged like that, where it's like, if I ever want to slip them back in, or even if I just want to look at the package, it's not all torn up. It's still the package.
Well, I'm going to present my one. So now in each of these episodes, I'll present one of my 5. And then beyond that, I'm sure, there's more I can pick. But the one I picked for this, because I'm really curious about your thoughts on it. And this is one of my favorites. And this was picked up online. So this actually came in a set. I don't have the full set. I picked it up as just a loose figure because when I saw it, I did not know it existed at the time. But I was so happy that it existed.
Oh, I have a guess.
And recently celebrated a birthday.
Yep.
and it is the Baron Papanoida figure of George Lucas's cameo in Revenge of the Sith, which was available in an exclusive Lucas family set.
Yeah,
It was like on
yeah.
what, like Star Wars store.com, or it was like when it was an online offering.
Yeah, I think it was like through the hyperspace.com thing they had back in the day where you could kind of like sign up. I think that was how you also subscribe to Star Wars Insider. I had it for a while, and I got a couple of my weird ones that I don't have with me, like the bartender from A New Hope, Uher, was through that program. But I never had the Lucas family, and I really want it.
And so it's Jet, Katie, and Amanda, their characters,
Mhm.
which you'll know the character names. I don't.
Yeah, Zet Jukasa for Jet Lucas. I think it's Lune Minx for Katie, and I don't remember for Amanda who it is. I think maybe one of the other Papanoidas.
Yes, I'm trying to look at the thing. So I can zoom in on it. I can't zoom in on it, but yes.
Okay.
So it was a 4-pack. It was
Yeah.
a very inexpensive 4-pack. And looking back at the time, but this was just a loose. And he comes with his little cane. that he has.
Ceremonial cane.
But it also
great.
is just really can't focus. It is a great Lucas likeness. Like they've done Lucas figures before, and they're not all great.
It's just Arrested Development Luke. It's just George Lucas blew himself, right?
I mean, it's basically Papa Smurf. It is literally the Papa Smurf of Star Wars.
Yeah, it literally is. It's
such
got
a great zero
figure.
Articulation. Like his legs don't move because that's all just solid. His arm rotates just enough to go, yeah, I'm leading the band.
I can stomp my cane. Yeah.
The head's not going to turn because that.
Yeah, but it celebrates the costume. Great job, Trisha Bagar, costume designer of the prequels. Just amazing.
A great little figure. And as one is like an introduction of like, yeah, that's what Star Wars figures should be about. Give me a Baron Papanoida. That's the Lucas I want. I want it's in canon. It's him. And it looks great. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of paint on it. I mean, it's basically all the same color except for some of those white highlights and the big blue face.
The big blue face. But that's the other thing about the figure of like, I've seen that scene a million times. I really like the Clone Wars episode that he is featured in, where George Lucas as Baron Papanoida just has 2 blasters and is going at it with Greedo. Very weird episode. I've seen it a million times, but the figure makes me appreciate like the costume more, because like you're just looking at it and you're studying it, and that was such the relationship that I had with like, I love Bosk because he's cool for his 5 seconds in Empire, but I love Bosk because I spent hours turning that figure around and around and looking at
Only
every
reason
detail.
you watched that Doctor Who episode was just to see that costume.
It's also the serial where William Hartnell regenerates, and the first appearance of the Cyberman.
You're there for Bosk.
So it has some value.
You're there for Bosk, yeah.
First regeneration, first Cyberman, Bosk costume.
When they actually launched in the retro Doctor Who line where they were going back to the classics and releasing figures, I was so hoping they'd release a figure in that, so everyone would do a double taking of, wait, did
that guy steal Bosk's outfit? No, the other way around.
So that's my number 5 choice.
That is great.
One day I will get the rest of that set.
Yeah. You collect them all individually, or do you want to get the package?
I mean, at this point, it probably would make sense just to go ahead and get the package.
Yeah.
Also, because it's a relic of a wholly different era of Star Wars that is now gone. Like, I can't imagine them doing a Lucas family set. Now, like, Disney's not going to release the Lucas family set.
No. I mean, it's been interesting to see that the Mandalorian is popular enough that they kind of they're pushing out to the edges a little bit. But like back in the day, there'd be like, here's Frog Lady right away.
Right. But there's also just a celebration of Lucas. Like this, in the weird Disney, I've seen it also with the Muppets, and sort of like, well, we'll acknowledge Jim Henson when we need to or want to capitalize on it. But, you're not going to get a Jim Henson action figure produced like they did. Palisades did 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, they made that Black Series Lucas and Stormtrooper outfit, so that's nice. But the family thing in that level of detail and obscure character is not happening.
And it also seemed like George really grooved on the obscure releases like this. Like he ultimately, the green light's going to come from him. And he
Yeah.
could have shut down anything he didn't want. Like, I think he loved that. Yeah, any obscure, weird thing, sure.
Yeah, it was very clear that that seemed like something of interest to him. It's that 30th anniversary of Star Wars line from 2007. That's one of the most bonkers lines, right? Because that was like,
Well, if we're going to get to the honorary mention, because I wanted to show you a few of the ones that I had while we're on here. But do
Yeah.
you have an honorary mention?
I do, and it kind of goes to some of the stuff we're talking about of that build up with the power of the Force, where they were going deep, deep, deep into the bench, and then that Phantom Menace just came out of the gate with like, we are going to make every action figure or every character an action figure. And another thing I deeply love in action figures is action figures that challenge the word action. So I had to share, of course, Co Bibble.
Knew it had to be Co Bibble.
I only recently picked him up because I have been amused by him. I didn't pick him up back in the day, and I needed him. And then, to my shock, actually a really great figure, like incredibly well made, right?
The scopes on those Phantom Menace figures in retrospect are really good.
Yeah, they
For the
really
most part.
are. Yeah, I mean, there's still the 5 points of articulation, but like, yeah, his face is, it's like, it's so grumpy. You can see he's thinking about communication disruptions.
Yeah.
But
he knows about blockades.
oh yeah, but I love that he comes with a blaster. He sits and I think briefly walks along with the Nemodian captors. But he's not out there firing the blaster defending the palace on Theed.
They didn't pack in the box back in his apartment where that blaster is kept and has been since the last blockade he dealt with 30 years prior.
It makes me want to see a cut of the film where he says that communication disruption could mean only one thing, invasion, and then just immediately pulls out his blaster in the middle of the meeting.
You just say that every meeting.
Whip it out, Co Bibble.
Somebody reset the Wi-Fi. He's doing it again.
Just, he's one of the political characters. He's Naboo's governor. He is particularly in Attack the Clones, but also in Phantom Menace. He's a little bit of an exposition hound. He loves telling people things that are happening. And it is just that era where there was an understandable belief that kids would go, yeah, I want them all. Yeah, no, I definitely want the old guy who shares facts. I need him.
Well, I mean, before the movie comes out, you also don't know how important some characters aren't going to be.
Right, and he comes.
Or the case of Force Awakens, if they're even going to be in the movie.
I almost shared Constable Zuvio. If you imagine just seeing this, and he's cranky as hell, and he's got a blaster, and you're like, oh no, Star Wars Santa is going to kick some ass. You don't know.
Has there been any further stories about Co Bibble in canon? Have they done any further exploration?
Yeah. There's been some really great Padme books by E.K. Johnston, a trilogy now, and they're really taking the ideas that are there in the prequels and extrapolating out to be like, okay, well, in the Phantom Menace, it's just like kind of accepted she has these handmaidens who are bodyguards and decoys, and she's 14 years old, and she was elected, and that's what happens on Naboo. And like, you stop and go like, wait, those are really interesting ideas. How does that work? And the books dive deep into, the culture of Naboo, the philosophy of the handmaidens, the relationships, all that stuff. And Co Bibble kind of floats in the background of those books. Is this
the quiet bachelor life of Co Bibble?
This ornery grump who's like, oh, come on, like, just, yeah. So it's not about a lot of quality time with Co Bibble, but some great Co Bibble moments.
Did we get a second figure from him, or did we just get Phantom Menace? Because he appears in Attack of the Clones.
He appears in Attack of the Clones, and he's sat at the funeral in Revenge of the Sith as well. But I don't know off the top of my head.
I would love funeral Bibble. Can we get funereal Bibble? Is that a figure we can get?
Funereal Bibble would be great.
And it comes with the chair. He comes seated in the chair.
Yeah, with morning action. Yeah.
He'd be like the Co Bibble. He'd be the meme, like the Bernie meme, of just him seated there with his mittens on at the funeral.
Yeah, no, there is a real connection there, isn't there? Like, I'm here to do the thing I'm supposed to do. Yeah.
This is me.
Let's see. What are his lines here? Do they say?
Is either the word blockade or invasion in any of them?
I'm sure there is. But
aren't they listed at the top corner? Doesn't it list his Comtech lines?
I wonder if he was
Or is that, did they release him again later in that line?
yeah, maybe
So
this
he
is a
didn't get
later
contact?
yeah, because I think yeah, I don't know if he was in the first wave.
Okay, choose your 3 CO Bibble lines that should have been on the Comtech chip.
You must contact us. Yeah, that one. The communication disruption can lead to only one thing: invasion. And then there should be one that just isn't in the movie of just like,
Is the lunch here yet?
my robe is wedging up.
I'm tired.
My robe is wedging. Yes.
Well, I'm going to share for the honorary mentions because we talked about that 30th anniversary line, and I've only discovered this recently, just how bonkers. And this is 2007 when this line came out.
Yeah.
And the first one I picked up because I had been obviously influenced by our mutual friend Alex Damon at Star Wars Explained.
Yeah.
The Big Dark Lighter.
Oh, that's a beauty. That is.
And then you have to do, as a Star Wars fan, a double take. Oh, wait a second. So this is a deleted scenes Biggs Darklighter that they chose to release.
Yep. And I just looks like a great figure, and what great art, right?
Yeah.
I love that whole package design with just going in hard on the diagonal, and then and
then it is straight from the deleted scenes. And then that's a mission statement. Once you see this, you go, oh, this is what this line did.
Yep.
This line was going to go hard into, you want the little scenes, you want the little things that just the diehard fans are going to know. We're going to give you all the obscurities.
It's from the deleted scenes, but it's also from, the storybook that was out in the 70s and 80s, and
so it's canon.
The novelization, that character in particular is one where like when you couldn't see the movie again, but you just had like trading cards and books, and you're like, I could swear that was in the movie. And like, no, you just read it in a storybook 1,000 times and looked at that picture with that cool cape and you thought he was in the movie. It's and then it's like from out of a dream.
He basically gets a name check in the released movie.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I have to explore more of this. And luckily I found a wonderful store local that had just a whole bunch of them. And I was able to get them pretty cheap considering. And I'm like, I have to.
You gotta.
I have to get the Han Solo with torture rack.
Yes. I've never purchased it, but that's one of my favorite weird ones. I don't know if you've looked online. Find a picture of that Han figure taken out of the torture rack and see what they've done to the human anatomy to make this physically possible. It's really, he's not right.
I mean, again, as just like a sales pitch for a figure. Do you want one of the worst moments in Han Solo's life? You want to celebrate that in figure form on your shelf?
Yeah. Does his mouth isn't open? Is it? Is he screaming on the figure? Is it molded plastic?
No, he looks like Morton Downey Jr.
Okay, yeah, he's doing the ha ha ha.
We're of an age that you understand that reference.
I do. Yes, it's an upsetting one. Yes,
you should stick like a cigarette in his mouth and have him yell at people. But he also look at you go, wow, for an average figure price, that's a lot of plastic that you're getting.
Oh yeah,
that
they
torture
didn't hold
rack
back.
Is not insignificant.
Oh no, Han Solo is stuck in a space stapler. Can you get him out, kids?
He's like the worst Airbnb booking.
Yes, a tiny house is one thing. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, so I had to get more of the line, obviously.
Yeah.
And so.
Ooh, one of the drummers, I believe.
And so this is from the special edition only.
Yep.
Return of the Jedi, but it's a lot of plastic because he has his gong back there.
Oh, the gong. Yes.
And this thing is heavy. This is just a heavy package. And he looks super serious. I love even the pose on the back. Like he's ready for gong and business.
Look at his gong legs. He needs to brace.
Yeah, no, he's got his bracing gong legs. He's got his stance. He's got his power stance.
Brace for gong. That is so great.
And I love that they must have thought because they had released other of the band members from that scene that they must have gone, who do we have left? Who haven't we done to fill out? And that's the thing you're not really getting still now. Again, with the modern line is who's left. If people are making dioramas, what's the weird little character that's left?
Weird characters, and sometimes even, some of the main characters, highly featured,
But also, this next one is my favorite.
Okay.
Because not only is it a character that our mutual friend Hal Lublin has chastised me about owning too many of, but it also is Stealth, an Obi-Wan Kenobi figure.
Ooh.
And it is Darth Vader with what I thought was a stain, but it's Obi-Wan's robes after. You can see it more clearly on the back. It is stepping on the robes pose.
Oh, it is Darth Vader being deeply flummoxed by Obi-Wan's superior understanding of the nature of the Force.
As soon as I saw this, I thought of you as, this is the ultimate Kenobi figure that Joseph has to get.
I'm keeping a list of figures I'm looking for at Celebration, and I'm going to add this one to the list.
Because I thought, why is it just like a brown stain behind him? And no, his accessory is just a pile of robes.
And then it comes with looks like a yelling at Cloud's fist.
Yeah, like, oh, curse you, Kenobi.
Kenobi.
Yeah, I did have a question about this.
Yeah,
maybe you can cover this in a Force Center. You don't have to go in depth here, but this is my question. Because, and you can tell me if this has been explained, if this is a question's already been answered. So this happened in A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
You had this confrontation. Vader's killed plenty of Jedi prior to this, but none had just evaporated during this.
Nope.
So was this then a conversation he had with Palpatine after, like, listen, I dueled Obi-Wan. We did it again. We did it. Yeah, we did it again. But this happened this time. This was weird. I just got robes and a lightsaber. He disappeared. There's no body. What's going on here? Because there's always that talk about, well, how could Anakin appear as a Force ghost at the end of Jedi? Because didn't that take a lot of training, as the prequels and Clone Wars established that you had to learn to do that?
Yeah.
Is Vader secretly going like, how in the hell did he do this? And there was an exploration that he did. Obviously, he couldn't do it because it requires you actually to have, be on the other side of the team.
Yes, you need to, confront your fears.
But did this prompt his exploration of figuring out how to do that? But he couldn't actually do it until after the redemption.
Yeah, I think the story is more that when Vader made the choice to save Luke and become Anakin again, that he very quickly went through the sort of steps that are laid out in that great season 6 Yoda arc. It really does kind of walk through, like, it's really the tenets of the light side, right? It's like face your fear, face the fact that you have anger and darkness in you, acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. And in that way, you truly know yourself. Be willing to sacrifice yourself and be aware that you only want to continue on in the Force, not out of any ego or vanity, but so you can be there to help others and let go. And I think, to me, the kind of idea is, in Vader's act of sacrifice to save Luke, he goes through all those steps. He sees Vader, he acknowledges Vader, and Anakin denies Vader. And
but now you say that,
faces his true self.
Now I'm thinking about that entire time when we see Luke standing over him and him wheezing with, his hand cut off. Is he going through a mental checklist at that moment?
No, I don't think he's thinking about it. They've never really explored this specifically, so this is my headcanon. I think he does kind of go through those moments of redemption and sacrifice. But I also like this idea that Yoda and Obi-Wan are in the Force, and they're like, "Come here, buddy," and help him retain his consciousness.
But he must have had some kind of exploration after A New Hope, going, "What happened here?"
I'm sure he had questions. I'm sure Palpatine had questions.
Obviously, neither of them can do it because it requires all those steps that you just did.
And it requires belief in it. And that's one of the really great parts of that season 6 Clone Wars Yoda arc. The dark side, they can't let go. And that's one of the things you have to do, is let go and be willing to let go of this existence and open yourself up to the unknown of this next existence. And the Sith can't let go. They cling to things. That's why Sith haunt. Totally get it if you don't like it, but that's what the story is in Rise of Skywalker. Of, I'm not going to leave this mortal plane. I'm going to jump from rotting clone to rotting clone because I can't risk any letting go of anything. And there's also this great beat of just nihilism. Like, the light side is hope in the possibility of change and new ideas. And the dark side is just nihilism. There's a part in that season 6 Clone Wars arc where dark side spirits haunt Yoda and say, you're nothing. You're gonna die and be nothing. It's just this total viewpoint of sacrificing yourself so you can continue to exist, not for any personal gain, but so you can whisper help to other people. Bullshit. That doesn't exist. If somebody told the Sith to their face this power was real, they might try to get it, but they'd fail, right? Because they can't even really kind of imagine.
Right. And ultimately, Palpatine isn't really delegating.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not training anyone up to make them better.
No.
They are a tool.
They're a tool for him to live on. Yeah. And I mean, and I think it's great that Darth Vader doesn't know what happened, and clearly just in the original trilogy thinks Obi-Wan's gone. He says it a couple times, right? Obi-Wan can no longer help him. He's just a boy. So he has no clue that, Obi-Wan's still helping Luke.
Do you think he tried on the robe later? Do you think...
I don't think they've ever addressed in canon what happened to his robe or Obi-Wan's hilt, his lightsaber.
Still smells of him.
I really like that idea of him having one of his attendants hold up the robe.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be in the castle, right? It's got to at some point. He's got to have like a Batcave display of.
Did he FedEx it to Mustafar that fast? Did it get off the Death Star, or did it burn up on the Death Star, or was it?
I can't imagine
Vader
him
go
not
back?
carrying the lightsaber with him. Like, I don't think he would just.
Yeah, but did he take it back to his quarters on the Death Star? Because like he didn't have a ton of time. Before the Death Star blew up.
So grab and run, just sort of.
Yeah.
So I imagine just a pile of robes and a lightsaber in that TIE fighter, spinning off into space with him. So I'll do these last ones real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. But I had to share because again, you're the one that prompted this. It's all your fault. I also love, speaking of Baron Papanoida, the idea of actual creators getting background roles in Star Wars.
Oh, is it? I hope this is the one I think it is. Yeah, this he almost made my list. General Farrell McQuarrie.
And again, that we got someone so important as basically the designer of what we know as Star Wars and the Star Wars universe aesthetic.
Yeah. Yep. So
not only got
vital.
that cameo, but then they said, you know what? It's the 30th anniversary. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's make an action figure. Because we'd seen it before, because we've gotten the Anthony Daniels figure and the Ahmed Best figure, and
from their cameos in Attack the Clones. Yeah, one of the other figures I covet along that line, because I picked that one up recently because I was like, exactly that. I was like, I want to honor Ralph McQuarrie and this character, Farrell McQuarrie. But there's a Ben Burtt's cameo in Return of the Jedi is Colonel Dyer, and he's only available in a multi-pack. And I gotta track him down someday. Yeah, because Ben Burt, come on.
Have you done a Force Center that's just focusing on talking about all the cameos that exist in?
We did do a Star Wars ranked of like our favorite cameos, and there's so many good weird ones from famous actors to people involved in the production.
So last two, speaking of McQuarrie and Vader.
Ooh,
they actually did the concept line, which was his initial explorations of characters.
Yeah, with the blue blade, amazing.
And what's, it's interesting that, so many of these designs would just a few years later be adapted by Dave Filoni and the animation team for Rebels.
Yeah, I have that Boba Fett one from back in 2007 when they released this. It was one of the few that I picked up on the shelf. It's like, I have to have that one.
Also, Luke with bone. Also epic.
Especially since he's holding it up like it's a lightsaber, right?
Or he's about to bang a gong with
the hero has come.
You could probably put him in front of that gong. Now I got to get that Luke just to put him in front of the gong.
He puts his hand out and you think the lightsaber's flying to it and like, boom.
And it's got the two different versions of, the designs for the hand.
Yeah, that is so great. That is so great.
And a blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
And then the final one I'll share, just because I think this is the epitome of what yes, everyone needs a figure. And the fact that this was sold at a regular figure price at the time, which would have been, I think, probably $6.99.
Yeah.
I'll do profile view just so people get a sense. So this profile, here's your average figure.
Mm-hmm. Right, like that's like weightlifting, right? Like you can feel the difference in the weight when you're lifting old
No,
Ephon, right?
This is a weapon. There's a danger to this. This is make sure he's balanced on a shelf.
And what does Ephon come with? He's got some stuff in there. That what is that? I can't quite make it out.
Let me see what it says. He's got a vibro blade.
Okay.
Which can be placed in his secret holder, as this states. So that's
upsetting.
And a cane. He's got his little cane that he stands with.
And he has a walking aid and violence.
And explain in canon who Ephon Mon is.
He's just one of the denizens of Jabba's palace, hanging out in the background.
It just his stringy hair, like he doesn't wash much.
Do you have Hermia Oodle? Hermia Oodle is another one that I gotta pick up.
No, but now I do want it.
Okay.
Why do you want it?
Hermia Oodle?
Yeah.
Oh, because he's just one of the weirdest background aliens in Jabba's palace, where he's just like he's the big, like Ephon Mon, melty guy, kind of a little bit of a Quasimodo vibe going on, and then his tongue is just hanging out. And his name is Hermie.
And they made this figure.
Oh yeah. Big hunk of plastic. Yeah.
Well, we'll get ours together. You get him. I got Ephon Mon. We'll make a play date.
Yep. We'll get our hunks of plastic together for fun.
But I also love I think my favorite part of this and why it's gonna be, and this package is deteriorating a little bit. But the thing I love about this also is that this was fans' choice for figures to come out. Granted, their number 3 choice, but this was fans' choice selection. The fans voted amongst the hundreds of characters from Star Wars. So with that in mind, I already asked you, and people should check out the Force Center Live thing you did a little while back about what your Holy Grail figure is. I want to ask you, because I know how much you love your Obi-Wans and your obscurity and your little moments. What is the figure you'd most want them to do?
Oh, I kind of want them to make some of the figures they haven't made yet. And the one that jumps to my mind, because it would be an obscene amount of plastic, it would be both cool and like kind of awesome and badass, and also super funny, is Palpatine from Rise of Skywalker hanging from the toy grabbing arm claw, just sitting there rotten with his little rotten fingers.
Oh, and his hand just falls off every once in a while, like in Lego Star Wars.
And ideally a 2-pack with that Palpatine and then restored Emperor, whose robes I think are legitimately cool, but comes with that great fantasy comedy of like, I absorbed your life essence of your dyad, Rey and Ben Solo, and I reformed my body, and while I was at it, I made myself some fashionable new robes with your life essence. I'm wearing your life essence.
I love the idea that he could have reformed his body, one would imagine, to like a much younger, more fit self. But somewhere in his brain is like, I miss the fancy clothes. Let me devote some of that rejuvenation energy to sprucing that up so I can at least look slick. I don't want the old stinky robes that I've been decaying in.
Yeah.
I'll use my fancy energy.
Yeah, that's his true self.
This is what Hasbro Pulse exists for, is to give us Crane Palpatine.
Exactly. And I really wish they'd almost do some like smaller, if they could, some smaller crowdfunding. And they'll find out quickly if the desire is there for some of that stuff. And it might not be, but it might be.
Yeah, bring back the fans' choice. Bring back the list. See what the bake brackets. People love brackets.
Yep.
See who wins, but we do need Crane Palpatine. As much as issues I have with Revenge of the Rise of Skywalker, I would like a Crane Palpatine, because I admit I have a soft spot for Palpatine.
Yep, soft spot, and it's a great design, even if you don't, like the story point or don't enjoy the movie so much. That's one of the magic to me of the figures, is you can still just enjoy the design and the aesthetic, And sometimes, when you start collecting the figures of that, it opens your heart a little bit to the movies. Not for everybody, but sometimes. And that's one of the things that I think is great about it too,
Yeah.
is,
No, I mean,
you can enjoy them on whatever level you want. And I think even people who don't like the film, how could you resist Crane Palpatine hanging out by your desk just rotting?
the star of the prequels for me, the bright light I could find throughout was Ian McDiarmid and his commitment to Palpatine. And for that reason, that's probably
call for a vote of no confidence.
Have you ever heard?
Anakin.
He is the swaggering thespian of
He's
which is why I had to finally when these went back in stock last week.
Oh, and he's got Luke's saber.
No, he's
quality stuff. Stuff.
That's the guy who's going to rejuvenate his robes with some of that dyad essence. Also, why they aren't marketing dyad essence as like a fragrance or a cream?
That's the way they should say. Emperor Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious, with restored dyad robes. Come on.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the inaugural episode of Force 5. I hope you've enjoyed the walk down your collection.
Oh, this is a ton of fun. I hope that you have great success with this, and I look forward to seeing other people's figures. And maybe I can come back with only Kenobi figures.
We have to do an all Kenobi. Maybe when Kenobi wraps and we know where that story exists after. Well, we ultimately know where the story exists, but where it exists after this, come back on with your top 5 Kenobis.
I would love to. Thank you very much, Ken.
And you have to go and get your robe Kenobi.
I have so many figures to get.
But you're going to Celebrations. You have a good chance of finding these things. So where can people find you online, and where should they go look and listen to what you're doing?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can go to my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for all of my other comedy adventures. If you want to check out that Star Wars podcast I do, that is Force Center. Our Twitter is at Force Center Pod, and you can find links to everything there. Final thing I'll plug, I was a writer for an Adult Swim show for a little while. Both seasons of it are on HBO Max. If you want to check it out, it's called Tig Tone. It's a very weird fantasy show, and that was a ton of fun to work on. So check that out if you're interested. Tig Tone on HBO Max.
And I'm Ken Plume. You can find me at Ken Plume on Twitter, kenplume.com for all the other stuff, patreon.com/Ken Plume if you want to support all the things. And this has been Force 5. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Get your figures ready. I'm coming up with a catchphrase that might not be it. Bye, everybody.